Good morning, everyone. I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday and I came across this and I thought, weird, this is our government, right? I mean, come on, right? Okay, here's Catherine McKenna and she says, she's tweeting, I've been really missing going for my morning swim, but having this punching bag has really helped me stay focused, beating hashtag COVID-19 and planking the curve. How are you staying active and planking the curve? Here she is. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. So do you guys remember these guys?
If it's okay to eat, if it's okay to eat, like a muffin or a beet.
Like a muffin or a beet.
Right, so I remember these guys, and it was a joke kind of in my high school. This came out, I think, when I was in high school or just before. Anyway, everybody knew what this was, and I think if you're Canadian, this is a Winnipeg station. I'm in Ontario, so I think most Canadians know what this is. And this next story made me think of this, and like I think back of this, and like I said, it was kind of a joke. It was kind of funny, but the same thing is at play in this story here. Global News is reporting May 1st. Happy May, everyone. I was going to tweet out May the 1st be with you, just because I wanted to be kind of like, because obviously it's not a Star Wars thing, but anyway, I thought it would be funny, but I didn't do it. I possibly should have. Time is running out to do that. Oh well. Anyway, back to this. Global News is reporting new animated series helps children and families navigate COVID-19. I'm going to show you a quick clip of these guys and then I'll read you this. I don't think these characters are as endearing as the muffin and the beet, right? Like, here we go.
I'm Spike.
And I'm on duty, hooty, Rudy, 5-flavor fruity tooty.
Me?
No. Right? I would turn it off right there just because, and I did turn it off right there both times I watched it and this time too. And I just, the animation's really odd and like off-putting. I don't like it. And her voice is grating already. I don't know. I'm not, well, I'll read you the little bit of the article here. Spike and Tooey are a wonderful little boy and girl who are able to talk about the kinds of things they're thinking about, says Sarah Demerman, an author and psychologist who is part of a team of advisors for the show. In a bright-colored living room, the characters discuss physical distancing and break the concepts down to a level children can understand. I'm working on my physical distancing. It's where people keep at least 2 meters or 6 feet apart, Tooey explained to Spike. Okay, that's about 3 giant kid steps apart, or a grown-up's hockey stick, or a big couch. Really? Back to this. If you give important information and a real sense of purpose into the hearts and minds of kids, they'll take it on, says co-creator Susan McLennan. I scroll down a little bit. Spike and Tooey is aimed at children between 3 and 7 years old and consists of 4 5-minute videos covering a range of COVID-19 related subjects, such as how to be a good helper and how to practice good hygiene. In one scene, Tooey can be heard telling Spike, I'm so tired of washing my hands, it's just so boring and I don't want to do it anymore. We have to. It's one of the best ways to stay safe from the coronavirus, Spike explained. Yeah, I think I'll continue just teaching my kids myself, and I'm not going to put this trash on. But I think that it's really weird how fond memories I have of this. And maybe it's because, like, it was funny and a joke. But this is just terrifying. Maybe it's perspective as well, but I don't like this at all. It's weird. It's weird. Okay, here is a meme. I often tell you that memes tell stories, and they do tell stories. This is kind of what the public thinks, and this is not filtered through a media conglomerate. This is not filtered through ownership or anything like that. It's put up and filtered through people voting on it on places like Reddit or people sharing it in places like Twitter. So it's interesting to me, right? This is what people think. And here's what people think about COVID-19. It says, COVID-19, what we have learned so far. Pot shops and liquor stores are immune. It spreads in churches, but not in Walmarts. Government is essential. Businesses are expendable. Moms taking children to parks is deadly. A politician can go wherever they want. The more you know, right? That reminds me of my childhood as well, right? We're having a whole walk through the 90s there. Isn't it interesting, right? That's what people think. Or that's what some people think. Not all people. And certainly Twitter is not real life and neither is Reddit, thank goodness. But they are a bellwether. They are a window into what the populace thinks. And it's like graffiti back in, the old days, if you will. And so it's really interesting to see the the turn of the public perception, the turn of the public opinion. And that turn is being felt by politicians. First, we'll start with this story with the mayor of Ottawa backing off on something crazy. I'm not going to go through the story. I'm just going to read the headline. You can have, I'll read a little bit of the story. Okay. Mayor moves to reinstate window visits among backlash, right? Reversal follows city memo detailing new restrictions on visitors to long-term care homes. So you're not allowed to go visit your parents who are in long-term care homes, even if you stay outside through a window. Not allowed. Coronavirus can get through that, maybe. Ontario Premier Doug Ford also weighed in on the window visit restriction on Thursday afternoon, calling it ridiculous. I'm trying to be politically correct, but I'm usually not politically correct. That's ridiculous. I don't know who's coming up with this ridiculous idea, but they need to rethink it, Ford said during a news conference. So they did rethink it, right? But it's interesting. And here's Doug Ford, and Ontario is on the path to reopening, and that's what the rest of the show is about, more specifically, how the country is going to reopen, because Trudeau hasn't left his house. The whole time he's been in his house. It's wild, right? Sophie Gregory Trudeau had COVID-19 right at the beginning. Trudeau had 2 weeks in isolation, and then he just never stopped isolation. He does a daily press conference from his house, from isolation in his house. Why? Why hasn't he left? No, does anybody know? I don't know. But anyway, despite Justin Trudeau hiding under his bed, despite the daily pressers, the provinces are looking at opening. Golf is opening in Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Manitoba, and Alberta. I'll show you that. Alberta is going to finish us out today, but first we'll look at Ontario. Alberta has the most robust plan. I think Ontario's got the most written down. I think everybody's going to kind of be looking a lot more like normal come June. That's my May 1st prediction. May the 1st be with you. Fozzie Bear. Okay, no. Okay, back to this. CTV News. Get ready. Ontario Premier unveils rules for businesses ahead of reopening. Ontario has unveiled more than 60 labor guidelines businesses will need to follow as Premier Doug Ford said the province is getting close to reopening. The government said it has released the sector-specific list of guidelines to protect workers, customers, and the general public from the spread of COVID-19. Quote, there's light at the end of the tunnel, Ford said Thursday at Queen's Park. Today, we are telling our businesses how to be ready for when we get that green light. We're in the path to reopening the economy because that curve is flattening. We're getting close. Get ready. The government said the new safety guidelines will provide direction to various industries, including retail, healthcare, manufacturing, tourism, restaurant and food services, offices, construction sites, and transit and transportation services. These guidelines will help Ontario businesses adapt to the new reality, Ford said. I don't like the new reality, Mr. Ford. I don't like that. Anyway, back to this. The province has also hired 58 new inspectors. Bigger government? Are you a conservative? Back to this. Who will join hundreds of existing labor inspectors to help enforce the guidelines? The province says they will be tasked with enforcing emergency measures, including physical distancing. And at the closure of non-essential workplaces, we will be opening things in phases as it becomes safe to do so, based on health and science, Ford said. I love the assurance every single day. Every day they do a presser, they're like, yeah, we're relying on science. We're definitely relying on science. Science is number one. Okay, back to this. On Monday, the Premier unveiled a 3-phase plan to reopen the following weeks of shutdown. While no specific dates have been offered up by provincial officials, the plan, dubbed a framework for reopening our province, states the parameters of each gradual stage. And you can go through that. I'm not going to go through that. I haven't really gone through that. But I wanted to show you, here's the Ontario guidelines that they've got. So if you're in construction, here's guidance for workers' procedures on handling paperwork, right? And they're just documents with guidelines for employers and employees. So, I mean, it's certainly a step, right? Here's CTV News talking about Quebec. Many Quebec businesses, but not all, to reopen throughout May. So Quebec's looking at reopening despite having the most cases in Canada. Interesting. Many Quebec businesses will reopen gradually through the month of May. Quebec Premier François Legault announced Tuesday businesses in 3 major sectors will be among those reopening, Legault said. Retail stores that are not in shopping malls or those in malls that have outdoor entrances, construction and civil engineering companies, manufacturing companies, plants, and factories. Shopping malls will otherwise remain closed for the time being, Legault said, as well as other businesses such as restaurants, hairdressers, and cultural institutions such as museums and concert venues. Plans to reopen those other businesses will be announced at a later date, the Premier said. Retail businesses outside of the Montreal area will be allowed to reopen on May 4. Stores in Montreal can reopen a week later on May 11th. The entire construction sector in Quebec can reopen as of May 11th, but with restrictions on the number of workers that can be on site at any given time. Those restrictions will be lifted on May 25th. Our challenge is to gradually restart the economy without restarting the pandemic, Legault said, adding that the COVID-19 crisis is under control outside of the province's long-term care residences for seniors. The idea here is to reopen gradually and to have a follow-up to see, is there an impact on contagion? Is there an impact on the situation in our hospitals, Legault said. Some Quebec businesses, including residential construction, gardening centers, and real estate brokerages, were granted permission to restart their work earlier in the month. So Quebec's on the path to reopening. The rest of the article's graphs and comparisons to their COVID-19 curve. Here's Alberta. Alberta to take first steps to open economy Saturday with emphasis on outdoor activities. Golf. You can go golfing tomorrow, Alberta. The first step in Alberta's plan to reopen its economy will emphasize outdoor activities with golf courses to open on Saturday, followed by shops, bars, and restaurants by mid-May. Premier Jason Kenney detailed his government's plan for a multi-stage relaunch that will depend on the province's continued ability to control the spread of the coronavirus and curb the number of COVID-19 patients who need hospital care. It feels like a lot more than 56 days since the first presumptive case of the novel coronavirus was reported here in Alberta on March 5th, Kenney said at a news conference on Thursday. But together, Albertans have responded to the worst global pandemic in over a century with a great deal of common sense, but also making tremendous sacrifice and demonstrating great resilience. Although the province's relaunch plans stated golf courses would be open Monday, Kenney posted on Twitter Thursday evening that Saturday would be the open date. Parts of the gradual relaunch plan will also begin Monday with resumption of some non-urgent surgeries and office reopenings for dentists, physiotherapists, speech and respiratory therapists, social workers, and dietitians. Provincial parks will begin opening Monday with some boat launches available through the washrooms and garbage pickup in the parks will not be immediately available. The province will open as many campsites as possible by June 1st, with Alberta's Parks Online reservation system coming online May 14th. Private and municipal campgrounds can reopen under their own authority. Vehicle access to parking lots and staging areas in parks and on public lands will begin on Monday. Quote, your efforts have succeeded in containing the spread of the virus far below the devastating scale of the outbreak in many other places, Kenney told Albertans, and well below the capacity of our healthcare system to cope. Stage one, so basically the preconditions are if efforts to control the spread of the virus continue to be effective, then in stage one, and then stage two and stage three, right? It'll come on in phases. Stage one, some businesses and facilities could be allowed to gradually resume operations. Retail businesses such as clothing, furniture, and bookstores, all vendors at farmers markets will also be able to operate. Hairstyling and barbershops, you could get a haircut. Museums and art galleries, daycares, and out-of-school care with limits on capacity. Summer camps with limits on occupancy. They could include summer school. Cafes and restaurants with no bar service to reopen for public seating at 50% capacity. As the province slowly reopens, Kenney said Albertans will still face the most severe economic conditions since the Great Depression of the 1930s. While we continue to see new cases and expect to as long as the virus is around, we've achieved our primary goal of flattening the curve of infections to keep our healthcare system from being overwhelmed, Kenney said. But with today's launch of Alberta's relaunch strategy, we can finally begin to shift our focus from the pain and anxiety of the past few weeks and to start looking with modest hope and cautious confidence towards the future. And then stage two and stage three. Okay, so stage two, the businesses and things that will open is kindergarten to grade 12. Schools will reopen with restrictions, more scheduled surgeries, including backlog elimination. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Personal services such as artificial tanning, aesthetics, cosmetic, skin and body treatments, manicures, pedicures, waxing, facial treatments, massages, and reflexology, permitting larger gatherings, number of people to be determined. Movie theaters and theaters open with restrictions. Visitors to patients at healthcare facilities will continue to be limited in stage two. Stage three, larger gatherings permitted. Nightclubs, gyms, pools, recreation centers, arenas to reopen with restrictions. Resuming industry conferences with restrictions. Lifting restrictions on non-essential travel. So, as I said, I think Alberta has a very robust plan. I think the Ontario plan is similar to the Alberta plan, but again, I haven't gone through it, so I apologize for that. But at this point in time, I just don't have the time. There's lots going on. But it's interesting that this whole thing started with models and people worried about a single person re-sparking an infection, an outbreak, something akin to Wuhan, et cetera, et cetera. But now we've got multiple elderly homes and old age homes that have infections, and we're looking at opening the economy pretty much, across the major, Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. That's a lot of Canada. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that it's interesting. I think that what this was when this began is not what this is now. And I think that the politicians see that and they're trying to, I don't know, reopen responsibly because, you don't want to be wrong in this, right? But I don't envy them. It's not an easy thing to roll this out, right? Because then they become not liable necessarily. Probably they should be liable, but they're going to say, and they have been saying, that they're operating with the best advice and the best data and listening to the health professionals, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, as we spoke about yesterday, there is collateral damage, right? With the economy remaining closed, there is collateral damage. You've got people dying of preventable heart disease. You've got people dying of not being diagnosed with cancer, so their treatment can start early enough. There is collateral damage that is as bad as, if not worse, than the virus. So when faced with that reality, you have to hit a balance. It's not easy. Reality is hard, right? Reality continually tests what you believe, because it will give you situations where you can say, that's obviously the right answer. And then you read into it and you're like, oh, I don't know anymore. Right. And so, right. The reality of the situation is here we are, and we've done all this. The economy is shut down for all intents and purposes. And now we need to, and the people are scared enough to not go into the emergency room if they're sick. People are concerned about spreading the virus. People are concerned about a second wave. All of those things are real things that these people have to deal with. These people are our leaders, right? And so it's not easy, but I mean, that's the job they signed up for, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting to watch. So very interesting indeed. We'll see where this all goes, but it sounds like we are going to be back to normal within maybe 2 months, maybe in the summer. Who knows? And judging by other countries' curves, like Sweden, like other places, I think I'm being called. We'll see maybe a spike in other cases, and I mean those numbers matter. But it's interesting when compared to the collateral damage and the potential for the impact of the economy remaining closed, right? Like, I wonder how many people have not died on the way to work or the way home, right, on the roads, or because things are busy and they get into an accident or whatever, right? I wonder what those numbers look like. There's probably, you could probably compare 2019 to 2020 and say like approximately X number of lives have been saved. I wonder if that's comparable to how many deaths of COVID-19 in Ontario or across the board. Anyway, I'm just speculating here, but it's interesting, right? Like, man, this is unprecedented, and watching all sorts of governments try to figure out the best path forward is, and everybody coming up with different paths, but relatively the same path, right? Like, I think by the end of May, I think that we're going to see a lot of the provinces kind of in a return to some semblance of normalcy. You may have to like 50% restaurants capacity and 50% theater capacity or something like that, but I don't think that we'll be all locked in our houses, and that's progress, right? That's something. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be continuing to watch and continuing to mention things. Check out Speaking Moistly. Yesterday I published Frank Vaughan and my chat on a whole bunch of this stuff on the Conservative Party leadership race and Derek Sloan, and on all sorts of stuff. So check it out. We talk about bylaw officers and all sorts of stuff. So please do check it out. Check out canadapoly.com. Check out canadareport.co, speakingmoistly.co. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. And have a wonderful, wonderful